Alright, for my first review I will be reviewing X-Men, released in 2000 and directed by Bryan Singer. The basic plot of the movie is that Magneto has created a device that can turn regular human beings into mutants. He captures Senator Robert Kelly, who is attempting to pass the Mutant Registration Act in Congress, and uses the device on him. Unknowingly to Magneto, this eventually kills Robert Kelly. Magneto attempts to use his new device on all of the leaders of the world so that his fight will become their fight. The X-Men, joined by new member Wolverine, attempt to stop him. X-Men is an obvious metaphor of racism and intolerance. While in Congress, Robert Kelly says that you need a license to drive, and then Jean Grey says, but not to live. Now this creates some interesting political elements that I wish had been explored a little bit more in this movie about what kind of rights mutants should have. The Patriot Act had not yet been passed through Congress when this film was made, but obvious parallels could be made to that. Let's talk about the characters. We have Wolverine, who is flawlessly portrayed by Hugh Jackman. Now, of all the X-Men movies, I would say that it is this one where Wolverine acts most like the Wolverine from the comics. He comes off as a loner, he comes off as someone who is extremely tough, but as you can tell from his relationship with Rogue, he has a softer side. A common complaint with all the X-Men movies is that he gets way too much screen time, and that is definitely true here. He comes off as the main star of the movie, and that doesn't allow X-Men to be the ensemble piece that it is supposed to actually be. Jean Grey is played by Famke Janssen, and I like Jean Grey in this. She comes off as somebody who is extremely unsure about herself, and is capable of doing a lot more than she leads herself to believe. There is an attempt to create a relationship between her and Wolverine in this, and it comes off as somewhat forced. In the beginning of the film, Wolverine is flirting with her because that's what he does, but towards the end of the film, Wolverine mentions that his heart belongs to someone else, and it's obvious that he's talking about her. And this comes out of nowhere in the sense that the relationship was never built up towards that level. Storm is played by Halle Berry, and of the main cast, she comes off as the weakest link. Halle Berry simply was not the right choice for this character. While Senator Kelly is dying, she mentions that she is afraid of humans, but we don't know why that is. That would have actually been an interesting character trait to explore, but they choose not to in this film. We have Rogue, who is played by Anna Paquin, and I don't have much to say about Rogue in this, but I do like her. She comes off as scared. She comes off as somebody who's not really sure what is happening, and I like that aspect of her character. Cyclops is played by James Marsden, and not nearly enough is done with this character. It seems that he is simply there to kind of be the wedge between Jean Grey and Wolverine. He comes off as extremely stoic and lacking much of a personality. And we don't really know if there's a reason for that or not. There's a scene when Charles Xavier is in his coma where he mentions that he's being built up to be the leader of the X-Men. And we never really hear about that before that, and we don't hear about that after that. It would have been nice if this had been made more of an aspect of his character. Mystique is played by Rebecca Stamos, and her makeup is extremely convincing. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot to say about this character. Every time she appears on screen, creepy music is played, and while she is fighting, she does stuff like licking her lips, and she tries to intimidate her opponents. It's as if they tried to make her more creepy than to actually develop her like they do in the future X-Men movies. We also have Sabretooth and Toad, who are little more than henchmen for Magneto. Next up we have Senator Robert Kelly, played by Bruce Davison. Now Bruce does a pretty decent job of playing Kelly here, but I really wish that they would have done more with this character. We get one quick scene of him in Congress trying to pass the Mutant Registration Act, and right after that he's captured by Magneto. We know that he's extremely against mutants, but we don't really know why that is. Before he's captured, he compares unchecked mutants to the same as children in schools with weapons. And that raises a legitimate point, but they unfortunately do not explore that in this film. Senator Kelly is simply a villain for the sake of having a villain. He's nowhere near as developed as the villain of Magneto is. Professor Xavier is played by Patrick Stewart, and I cannot think of a single actor who would have done a better job than he has with this role. Magneto is played by Ian McKellen, and the same applies for him too. In my opinion, the most interesting aspect of the film is the relationship between these two characters. Although they don't get much screen time with each other, what is there comes off as powerful. At the beginning of the film, Xavier tries to read Magneto's mind, and Magneto asks what is he looking for, and Xavier says hope. At the ending of the film, Magneto mentions that Xavier is on a continuing quest to find hope. To put it simply, Magneto is Xavier's hope. He knows that if he can change the mind of Magneto, he can change the mind of everybody else as well. The ending of this film perfectly illustrates the relationship between these two characters. They are talking about how they plan to take each other down in the future, but they are doing this while they are playing a friendly game of chess. Now, as far as the special effects go, they look pretty good, especially for the year 2000, with only the scene where Wolverine spins around on the crown of the Statue of Liberty seeming to be really off. The makeup effects look really good, especially on Mystique. On Sabretooth, while he doesn't look bad, it is noticeable that he is wearing a costume. The fight scenes are fun and inventive, and I enjoyed watching them. Overall, I would give X-Men a 7.5 out of 10. The acting and the special effects are good for the most part. It is fast-paced and goes by surprisingly quick. It also raises a lot of interesting themes and character traits, but my biggest complaint with the movie is the fact that it doesn't take advantage of them. Next up, I will be reviewing Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.